Welcome back. Newly sworn-in FBI Director Kash Patel named popular podcaster Dan Bongino as the deputy director of the agency. Bongino's background includes Secret Service and the NYPD, but not the FBI. Adding to the agency shakeup, Patel said he plans to move more than 1,000 agents and staff from D.C. headquarters to outposts and field offices across the nation. This is all part of a plan to thin out FBI offices in the capital region. So let's bring in CBS News Department of Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane to help us break all of this down. Welcome, Scott. I want to talk about the new deputy director. You've been around Bongino. What can you tell us about him, and what should we expect of him in this new role?
Dan Bongino, among other things, is wildly famous on the talk radio circuit and in conservative circles. He has an audience that is measured in millions, and he is taking a civil service job to a degree, becoming the deputy director of the FBI. On his program late this morning, he confirmed he's taking the job in the name of public service and that it's hard to walk away from a popular show. Dan Bongino, among other things, was the successor to the late Rush Limbaugh, inheriting that show and holding it for years. But there are any number of concerns inside the FBI and among critics of the Trump administration about putting somebody with no FBI experience into the number 2 position at the Bureau, because the number 2 person at the Bureau does all that blocking and tackling, administering of the agency, helping with the day-to-day operations. Having somebody so inexperienced inside the Bureau is going to cause some concerns. But then there are the politics behind this. Dan Bongino has amassed an enormous audience and credibility in conservative and MAGA circles because he is a provocateur. He calls about owning the libs, about taking on libs, about being a change agent to change the trajectory of politics in America. That is quite a stance for somebody who's going to be running a law enforcement agency.
Okay, Scott, let's talk about Kash Patel's first full week as director of the FBI. He said he is moving more than 1,000 FBI agents to other outposts. So what are officials saying about this, and have they expressed any concerns so far?
It's a big shift. Let's start off with the fact that over the weekend he's announced about 1,000 D.C.-based leaders, executives, and agents are going to be redirected or reassigned elsewhere in the country. There are about 6 FBI field offices around America, and he's going to decentralize the agency, move these agents and employees around. That could cause some turnover. It also may be a politically popular move in some circles to have less people in Washington and more people out in America. But there's also that ticking time bomb inside the FBI. The list that was compiled under Department of Justice orders of 5,000 or so agents and employees who were part of the January 6th investigation. Many of those agents are worried about or resigned to some type of retaliation for following orders and investigating a violent attack on the Capitol. That list could make its way to Kash Patel's desk, and there are so many people inside the agency right now worried the email is going to arrive any minute, that they're being disciplined or fired or forced to resign. That's a difficult condition for law enforcement to operate under.
Yeah, very difficult for these people to do their jobs. So we know Patel is also tapped to run the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, or the ATF. Can we expect to see a similar shakeup here, just like we've seen with the FBI?
I think no matter who was going to run the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, there were going to be some big changes. In fact, the last director in the Biden administration predicted to CBS News there would be cuts, there would be shakeups, because there's a Republican Party mandate to chop or redirect the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. Conservatives argue that that agency is an encroachment on the Second Amendment. Supporters of the agency say it helps reduce gun crimes and mass shootings in America. The new leadership will likely mean a refocusing of their resources, but there's a bigger threat outside the administration to the ATF. The Republican Congress seems keen on lowering the budget, shrinking appropriations for the ATF, making it more difficult for them to do anything.
Okay, I want to ask you about the hearing happening today on the Associated Press's fight to restore their access to presidential events. The White House restricted them over the publication's use of the term Gulf of Mexico. So what exactly can you tell us about this case?
Yeah, the Associated Press goes into court in mid-afternoon here in Washington to ask for a judge to intervene and restore their full access, the access they'd had a few weeks ago and for years, to all spaces in the White House where the Associated Press is accustomed to going, to cover the president, from Air Force One to the Oval Office to the areas that are limited to certain press. The White House has argued because the Associated Press refuses to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. However you want to view that issue, the Associated Press has not subscribed to the president's term for it. They have been taken away their access to certain presidential events. They want a judge to intervene to restore it today. There'll be arguments both ways, an unorthodox, a break from custom for the courthouse in Washington to be hearing that type of case,
right,
especially at this moment.
Okay, we shall wait and see what comes out of that case. CBS News Department of Justice correspondent Scott MacFarlane, thank you so much for your time today.